And welcome into the Wednesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Wednesday morning. Joe Rexrode, live from Lexington in advance of the first round of the NCAA tournament coming up beginning tomorrow, as the Vols will be included tomorrow. Vanderbilt in action on Friday. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. The Residence Inn downtown Lexington has big cups at the coffee station, and they also have stevia.
Wow.
So I brought this huge stack of stevia with me, just in case that wasn't the case. But now I get to, not use it all, and I can just use the hotel stevia. It's a very exciting morning.
Maybe never a hotel more prepared for you ever. I mean, this is unbelievable. You found the jackpot here.
Yeah, it's more often than not, you still just find obviously regular sugar or awful. All the other sweeteners are awful, and they all cause you to die within a year, I think, per studies I think I've read. Now, granted, there will be a study at some point about how stevia makes you grow a third foot or something, but
that is correct.
For now, I'm happy with it.
Nick Keyser, how we doing? What's going on? Good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. Joe, you might not even come home. This is like your safe haven, man.
Yeah,
you got
really
all the
is.
Stevia, get your wad of all the sugar there. Golly. The only reason that you need to actually come home is so Brennan can actually take you back in the gym, man, and get rid of that gout.
Well, it's funny you say that because the gym here, and I even took a picture for Brennan. I said, the gym's pretty good. They got a lot of machines. I hit it hard yesterday. They got a rooftop bar. I haven't checked that out yet, but you might be right. If I could just live here, I might look into that.
Rexrode's not even going to go to the games. He's just going to be hanging out at the Residence Inn. Good stuff. We had the first four, part of the first four, last night in the NCAA tournament, Joe. And we'll get to why I hate the first four here in just a second. But what did you make of St. Francis, PA, and Alabama State in a battle of 16 seeds? Came down to the wire, Joe. It had people on the edge of their seat. And then North Carolina in the other game just blowing out San Diego State.
Yeah, I tell you what, the first game was actually an amazing game, like a truly awesome game. Feel terrible for the St. Francis kids. They've had this crazy run, in the postseason, and the pass to win that was epic. It was a little bit lucky because it bounced off a couple people, but still it was an incredible pass. And then, Carolina actually wrote a little column about this, but Carolina, people needs to calm down now with see, they did deserve to be in, because I still think they didn't. But this is an example of they have been playing a lot better. And if you hit 14 threes in a game, you're probably going to be in good shape. They had one, you have one of those shooting nights, don't care who you are. And on the other side, it's going to be a long night. And so I was disappointed. I thought that would be a good game, and it was a stinker.
Hubert Davis just been saving it all for the tournament, Joe. He's been kind of stockpiling, just taking notes of who's been writing him off, and he's ready to go on a run here to the tournament.
Hubert Davis has done well in the tournament. His regular season performance so far has not been great. And, of course, 2 years ago, they didn't make the tournament. By the way, for anybody who noticed, North Carolina did not make the tournament 2 years ago. But he turns it on this time of year. And, they're certainly like Ole Miss, Carolina. To me, that's probably about a toss-up game. Especially if Carolina's going to shoot anything like this, they're going to be very dangerous.
Well, it's hard not to be. If you're Hubert Davis and you're looking around your own athletic department right now, it's hard not to be inspired when you look around and you see Bill Belichick at the age of 73 doing basically leg presses with his girlfriend on the beach and just holding his girlfriend in the air with his legs via Instagram photo. It's hard not to be inspired really with the whole athletic department if you see that.
Okay, well, I missed that one.
Just search Bill Belichick photo and you'll find it. He's on the beach on his back, leg pressing his girlfriend in the air at the age of 73.
My goodness. Well, also, did you see that all emails are she's supposed to be copied on all of them?
I couldn't tell if that was real or not, but I guess it is.
I think it is. Yeah. I believe that was actually a open records request. I forget who had it first.
Let's make sure you keep Jordan in the loop on anything you might want to email me. Thank you.
Well, that's the thing. Hubert needs to get going because Belichick's trying to take over the whole darn place, man. So Hubert's got to remind him it's a basketball school.
Joe, I feel like this has turned into an annual tradition for me, and I need to stop whining about it because it's never going to change at this point. But the first four really bothers me for no other reason than, like, I understand the 16 seed matchups and you're basically in a play-in game to get in the tournament. It bothers me that we're matching up 11 seeds, and it's like, okay, so if you lose this game, you're not really going to get in the actual tournament, but if you win, you're an 11 seed. That's good stuff. It bothers me. I know why they do it. It's for TV. I get it, but it bothers me every single year.
See, it's interesting because the other argument against it is like the other way, which is it should be only teams like that, and the 16s should be allowed to like experience the full, like the full experience of the tournament, of being, in the building with all the other teams and being part of a, a full day of like 4 games and stuff like that. I was kind of arguing with people on X last night about that. I hear what you're saying. I disagree on the other one, the 16, just because, look, those teams last night, they took part in an amazing game and the most watched game either of them will ever play in. And, obviously it sucks for the one that loses. They both get the financial benefit of the financial unit for being in the NCAA tournament. And now, you got the first NCAA win in fact, for Alabama State, it's the first postseason win of any kind in any tournament.
That's pretty
last
wild.
night. Yeah. And then, and then they get a shot at Auburn. I mean, so I don't know. I kind of think it's cool for the 16s to have that stage. And again, like last night, I was absolutely riveted by that game. And a lot of these 16s, they go into the tournaments and there's 4 games on at once, and theirs is the game that they lose by 30 and no one watches it, So and now again, that may happen at Alabama State here. Auburn certainly hopes so, but we've now kind of been able to watch them, familiarize ourselves with them. Like, Tony Madlock's, I remember him from Memphis playing with Penny Hardaway, but like his wife over there just living and dying with every free throw. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just there's something weird to me about, hey, if you win this play-in game into the tournament, you're an 11 seed, and all the 12s and 13s and 14s and 15s get to just sit there the whole time. I don't know. It's always bothered me that way, but it's not changing at this point. I can only hope, Joe, that we don't add more of these and it doesn't expand as we move forward here.
I mean, Seth Davis is just, he's just absolutely, it's like, Seth, please stop, man. He is so gung-ho about, his whole thing is like, if you go to 76, then, Tuesday and Wednesday would be like full day, quadruple header. And it's like, yeah, that's okay. No thanks.
It's fine the way it is.
We don't, we're good. But,
very
at some
popular
point,
the way it is.
Yeah, again, like I'm fine going back to 64, but I've also kind of, obviously it's been quite a while now with the first 4, so like I'm used to it, and I kind of don't hate it, but I don't want more, no more.
So the first 4 concludes today, Joe, with Mount St. Mary's and American coming up tonight in the battle of the 16 seeds, and then back to the battle of 11s, Xavier and Texas in the first 4 tonight as well. Your thoughts on those 2 matchups? I know you're a big Mount St. Mary's fan.
Yeah, well, the very first NCAA tournament game I ever covered was in Mount St. Mary's against Michigan State.
Wow.
So in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the 1990s. So yes, in fact, they had I wish I remember the coach's name. I will get it before the show ends. Just a legendary, like I'd been there like 40 years and he was like the nicest old man. But anyway, yeah, I'm not sure what to think about that game. I am very intrigued by Xavier, Texas. And look, it's the first. This is the one SEC team that people had an issue with. The other 13, everybody had the other 13, and a lot of people, I think, including myself, did not have Texas in. So this is the first chance for the SEC to start proving it, because that's going to be the theme over and over again in this tournament.
No doubt about that, and we'll see what that looks like tonight if Texas can get a win and get the SEC started on the right path. And then the real thing begins tomorrow with Tennessee in action tomorrow at 5:50 here local time against Wofford. So a full day of the NCAA tournament. And even for a known college basketball hater like me, Joe, 2 of the greatest days of the calendar year coming up Thursday and Friday to just sit back and watch basketball all day. I read an article where apparently tomorrow and Friday every year is like the most popular day of the year for vasectomies. So the more you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, it's a great plan rather than just come up with an illness or, use vacation days. That's probably a little bit embarrassing, but yeah, I mean, like the vasectomy thing is a great plan. It's like, hey, sorry, man, like I got to ice down here on the couch here for a couple days. So, I think that's a good use of that. Hopefully you're not doing like Michael Scott, like having one, reversing it, having it again. Like if you did it one year, you have to come up with a different ailment rather than reverse the vasectomy the next year.
Wow, you do this every year. It's unbelievable how often this happens.
Go down there again? Okay.
It's crazy.
You say so.
Preds and Blues last night. The Blues get the 4-1 win, and they are playing really well. They were 10-2-2 in their last 14. They're pushing for that last wild card spot. And Joe, my takeaway from the Predators last night is simply this, and I tweeted this after the game. April 17th, which is the day after the season ends for the Predators, their final game is on April 16th. April 17th cannot get here soon enough for this hockey team right now. It's just, I mean, you could tell Andrew Burnett was beyond frustrated after the game last night with the way his team played. They turned the puck over left and right in the game, gave up transition opportunities, and they need April 17th to come around here with a quickness.
I hate to be that guy, but at least they got their heads on their shoulders now. Stop this winning garbage. Get it done, boys. No, I mean that's obviously if you're in that with those, you gotta. I mean, obviously they put themselves in this position. So I mean, I'm not gonna play a violin here, but yeah, that's 4 grueling weeks. You got tax day, you got the season ends, and then you take a deep breath and just get away from this season.
No doubt about it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your thoughts on the first 4 of the NCAA tournament, your thoughts on the NCAA tournament going up tomorrow. Plus, I was doing some long thinking yesterday, Joe, about Cam Ward, and I feel like Titans fans are owed something. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. By the way, Jared on the YouTube chat, Joe, saying that Splenda so much better than Stevia. So Stevia taking some shots this morning on the YouTube chat.
Dude, Splenda. I think that turns you into an aardvark. No, you don't. No, Splenda's gross. Splenda is awful. If I put Splenda in something, like I would rather have like the most whatever, like pure cane. I'd put maple syrup straight out of the tree before I put Splenda in my coffee.
Agave, Joe?
Yeah, it's okay. That would be the other one that's at this point deemed, okay for you. But I mean, stevia is just, come on, man, get with the stevia or Truvia. Truvia is like an offshoot of stevia. Either blank via is good.
You know what else is pretty good, guys? Sugar. That's awesome too.
Yeah, I like sugar. I try to not do it.
It would not qualify
like
as good for you, but it is good.
It is.
615-737-1025. So, Joe, I was doing some thinking yesterday. It's still trending like Cam Ward is going to be the number one overall pick. We're going to have Kuharski in later on the program, and he talked to some people around the league who also feel like Cam Ward is going to be the guy for the Titans. So all the momentum in the world is looking like Cam Ward is going to be the pick at number one. We'll see if it actually ends up transpiring that way. But I was thinking about this. I've heard Titans fans talk about how they're due to draft a franchise quarterback. We talked about how it's been 30 years since they drafted McNair. And I was thinking about this in relation to other teams. Like, you think about long-suffering fan bases and long-suffering franchises that have not had very much success as it relates to the postseason or championships or anything like that. Obviously the Browns are a team that come to mind. The Detroit Lions, although recent success has kind of jump-started them a little bit, are a team that come to mind. I'm just trying to figure out like where Titans, the franchise, and Titans fans kind of rank in all this. You're talking about an organization that's been around since 1960. They've made it to one Super Bowl in the 99 season, the 2000 Super Bowl, and that's it. And look, they've had a pretty good run of recent success in terms of, they won the division. They've been to the AFC title game in the last 5 years. Like there's been some success that they have. It's not just like they've been dog water for 20 consecutive years. But I feel like this team, this franchise, and more importantly, Joe, this fan base is owed some success here. There's a new stadium coming. We're all excited about that. It should be fun. But we're due here. There's been a lot of misery watching this football team over the last 3 years, and we're due for a guy like Cam Ward to come in and change this franchise around. Does that mean a hill of beans at the end of the day that it'll actually happen, Joe? No, it does not. But Titans fans are due. It's been a rough go of things. And I, for one, Joe, if Cam Ward is the selection, I'm rooting for him to come in and to be a great player because I am tired of watching terrible football.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It is they're due. The Titans fans are due. To have success in any way, again, like if they would have signed a veteran and just had some, had some more winning football, had an offensive line play that's not terrible. There's a lot of moving parts, but yeah, to actually have that quarterback come in and again, look at just really what one guy did. Yes, they did a lot of other good things, but Jaden Daniels has completely changed the feeling around what was probably the most depressed fan base, right? Their long saga of just terribleness,
right.
Basically starting with their owner. That was a long time of just awful. And he just comes in and all of a sudden it's like, boom, it's a completely new era. Again, because of him way more than anything else. And now it's just like, they are like the next few years are very exciting for Washington fans. So
apparently a destination franchise now, making all kinds of moves.
Yeah. And that's all. It really is. Like if you have that guy, that's one of the things people all of a sudden want to play, on the same team with a guy like that. And obviously that's one. It's just, I guess I shouldn't say the Titans haven't had that at all because they've had early in Mariota. I mean, like Mario's first game. Even again, Mariota's second season. There was excitement. Obviously, Vince Young was Rookie of the Year. So they've had. That's the thing is like we can talk about this, and the next year Cam Ward could be good, and we'd be like, here it is, and then well, just hold on, let's see. And look, I mean, hey, look at C.J. Stroud in year 2. Look at now we'll see with Jaden Daniels. Sometimes it kind of comes back to the middle a little bit, but even to have any kind of excitement. Think about the excitement of Levis, just like his first game at Nissan. My goodness, Billy Jeans, the excitement of that. So it won't take much for that to happen. We've been talking about, stevia and sugar. It's like the sugar rush, but is it sustainable? I mean, again, the Titans have not had that, a sustained real guy like that in the draft since McNair. Pretty amazing, 30 years.
I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, the last 2 quote unquote franchise guys, Joe, that they've drafted. I mean, the Mariota in his first game had a perfect quarterback rating and looked unstoppable. And then Levis came out and threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns and looked unbeatable against the Falcons. If they do draft Cam Ward, I guess they need him to just be absolutely cheeks in the first game.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, flip it around. Have a terrible first game and then lower the expectations and then go from there. How did Locker do in his first game? I don't remember.
I don't remember that one.
Forgettable, so it wasn't anything.
I don't think it was like the other 2. I'll put it that way.
I mean, he was never really anything special. So that was a head scratcher.
Some strays from Rexrode.
Well, I mean, I remember that when that pick happened, I was like, that is just absolutely doomed. But he could be a good safety though.
I think maybe he could have. I mean, he's big dude out there. Just when he wound up, when he threw the ball, it looked like he was like winding up to throw a pitch. It's like, really? This is the quarterback? Okay.
Tebow-like.
And that's why he could, never complete a pass. So there's a problem there.
Glad we could rip Jake Locker.
Yeah, I know Jake Locker's really getting it today here from us. So, I don't think the Titans are like the Browns. Like the Browns have been cursed for a long time. There are some long-suffering franchises around here. I just know if you're a Titans fan, you've been through the ringer the last couple of years here. And it was fine. Like you had a nice run of success with Tannehill and Vrabel and all those guys. And that, I think, clearly is probably the second greatest era of Titans football, right? Like you had the opening years when they got here where they were the Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl, and then were the best team in the league the year after that. And then there's been a lot of in between where it's just been, I mean, I think back to Wisenhunt and Munchak and the early part of the Malarkey era before he turned things around. Like there's been a lot of bad around here. This franchise needs a shot in the arm. That's probably the best way to describe it. I think this team needs a shot in the arm right now. Cam Ward could be that guy.
Yeah, and I've never I still, this is not the way I would have gone. And I don't think that you ever make a pick like this. I mean, this is going to be a career defining pick for these guys, right? I mean, I never think you do something like this because of that. I think if you think in those terms, I think you get in trouble. Just like it's like, well, it's the best quarterback, so I guess we'll take the best quarterback. Which again, both of those things may be happening here. But if this is what it's going to be, yes. I mean, it could work out. It is possible. He does have a ton of talent. And so people should get excited until they have reason to not be excited.
Yes. Which hopefully doesn't come immediately. We'll see what happens on that front. We do have a Jags fan texting in, Joe. Says, Jags fan here. Love the show. Coming from experience with losing all the time, we kind of get used to it, but we still love the game of football. And that I will say, Joe, I can confirm that Titans fans still love the game of football.
Yes. So in other words, just embrace sucking and just enjoy the game itself. It's like, fans are like a crappy NBA team, but Jordan's coming tonight, so we can watch him.
Well, if you're a Jags fan,
is that what you're saying, Duval?
You've at least got Liam Cohen to look forward to this year, and there's the different variations of the way he could say Duval after a game. I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure that clip will be played about 1,000 times this year when football season gets going.
Duval. Do we have it, Nick?
He was at the combine and people were like, hey, you want to try this again? He's like, yeah, no thanks. I think I'm just going to leave that one alone.
If I was him, I would have done it again and tried to get the other one off the internet. But hey, man, you do you,
I mean,
Liam.
I guess there's always the chance the second one could be worse. It could be
No,
trying
that's
to
true.
overcompensate. 615
Oh.
just get stuck. 615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. Tim Hasselbeck with some very interesting comments yesterday on DVD as it relates to the number one overall pick and how you view success. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe Jeff from Nebraska says, when I met my fiance, Titans were 7-3 going into that 2022 Bengals game. Since then, the team has been a train wreck. Do I blame her for the litany of misery? This from Jeff from Nebraska on the text line. To which I've responded, we may have discovered the root cause of the Titans' misery here. Maybe it's not the plane from Green Bay.
I hope you really like her.
I do too.
And if so, your love is all that matters.
That's right.
But that is kind of weird. Like, what about other stuff?
Honey, ever since I've met you, the Titans just totally suck.
Yeah, like what about other stuff? Like, have you lost your job? Have you lost your hair? Is other stuff going okay? If it's just the Titans, I think you got to stick with it, man.
Mo on the text line says, do you guys remember the Vince Young throw in the back of the end zone to Kenny Britt? Reminiscing on the good times. We're going down memory lane on the text line. Ed says, from John Elway beating us in a playoff game, the final drive, to Frank Wright's comeback in Buffalo, Joe Montana's Chiefs in 93, 1 yard short in the Super Bowl, outgaining the Ravens 3-1 and still losing as a 1 seed. I'm ready to cash in. Ward is a Hall of Famer, multiple championships. Let's go. This is from Ed on the text line. Has been quite a build up to this point.
Yeah, getting ready to cash in on him being that. Yeah, that's the thing. If you're a fan like Ed, who goes back to the 70s and you've been a fan of the franchise again, like if you like a lot of Titans fans don't have this because they didn't care at the time. But if you're a fan that goes back to the Oilers and goes back to that Frank Wright game, 35-3 Oilers lead, holy, I mean, that's an all-time brutal loss. I forgot about the Elway one, but that one, man, like that's like a decade or two of misery for a fan base all on its own.
I mean, I guess you kind of felt that you got him back with the Music City Miracle, but yeah, I mean, there's been some wild stuff going on between those two franchises in the playoffs. So Tim Hasselbeck was on with DVD yesterday for his weekly visit, Joe, and the topic of Cam Ward and the number 1 overall pick obviously came up. And Hasselbeck had an interesting discussion as it relates to the number 1 overall pick and how success is viewed. And he brought up Andy Dalton as an interesting comparison. Here's what Tim Hasselbeck had to say yesterday on the program.
I'm going to bring this to Shedeur Sanders. I think that he's a really good quarterback. I think he's been coached well to play the position. I think he knows how to play the position. I think he has things about him that translate to success long-term at the position in the NFL, okay? And I'm going to say this, and like people are going to hear it initially as an insult, and let me explain it. I think his upside is Andy Dalton. That's what I think Shedeur Sanders is because of what he is physically. Now, listen, Andy Dalton's thrown over 250 touchdown passes in the NFL. Like, he's been a wild success. But no one ever thought Andy Dalton was a top 5 pick. So, like, I don't know if I'm making that distinction clear enough. Like, that to me is the difference. It's no different than when Teddy Bridgewater came out and people thought I was being critical of Teddy Bridgewater when I said, look, I think his ceiling is Alex Smith. And, like, Teddy Bridgewater didn't have Alex Smith's career, And so I think when we're talking about that top 15, and I said the same thing to you guys about Mac Jones when he came out, like, when the guy has athletic deficiencies, when you are going to play a sport that's got some of the most, freakish athletes on the planet playing it, I do think if you're going to be talking about the rarefied air of the first 15 pick, I do think it matters. And so it's a long way for me to say, like, I do think people are going to feel like they've got a forced hand on Shedeur Sanders.
So the whole conversation, Joe, he was talking about Cam Ward, he was talking about Shedeur Sanders, and like managing expectations heading into the draft. And his point was, like, if you told whoever, the Giants or whoever ends up with Shedeur Sanders, the Browns, that he was going to have a career like Andy Dalton, like the majority of the fan base would be like, really? Andy Dalton? Well, that sucks. We want better than that. And then you go and you look at Andy Dalton's numbers as a starter, and you realize, Joe, that for a long time he was pretty good. Like, he's a pretty good quarterback as an NFL starter. And I think we've gotten into this thing where, like, if it's not Allen, Mahomes, or Burrow, you just freak out if your quarterback is not that and you want to be those guys. And I understand wanting to be those guys, but there's a lot of middle ground between, Joe Burrow and a total bust at the quarterback spot.
Yeah, I mean, Dalton certainly. I mean, my first reaction is also like, the whole thing with Dalton is they never won, right? They never had playoff success.
Correct.
It was like Dalton, Marvin Lewis, forever tied together with good teams, good quarterback, good coach, good teams. Never did anything in the playoffs. And so, look, I get it's not easy. It's not easy to like consistently win in this league and consistently be in the playoffs. But I also get that got old and that anybody right now hoping, thinking their team's about to draft a QB does not want to think about things like that. But, that's, again, we talk about first round quarterbacks going back to my intensive study going back in the Super Bowl era, basically 1-5 working out. That's absolutely working out. That's one of the 1-5 who works out. That's the good 20% is the Andy Dalton scenario. And, you could look at like Andy Dalton and say, if a few other things were different about that team, could he have had success? Do we pin it on him that they didn't have it? I mean, I don't think he was great, but I think he was very good. He was definitely better than people will remember him for, I think.
Well, and it goes back to the question on Ward specifically of like, if you're drafting him number 1 overall, how do you measure what a successful career looks like? Because the easy answer that everybody's going to want is, well, you need to be winning championships and you need to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And that's great. Like everybody wants that. And hopefully if that's the way the Titans go, Cam Ward can be that. But we brought up some different examples yesterday. Like if Cam Ward and the Titans take him number 1 overall and he ends up being like the equivalent of, I don't know, Trevor Lawrence or a Kyler Murray, like, is that success? Like, how do you view what success looks like as the number 1 overall pick? Like, there is a chance that you can end up drafting a pretty good quarterback at number 1 overall, and they're not Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow. And I think eventually, Joe, what happens is if you do that, after a long enough period of time, people look around and say, well, we can find better. And the truth is, it's just really difficult to find better.
Yeah, like those guys are the whatever 1, 2, 3 percentile, whatever 97th percentile, 98th percentile, and of course everybody wants that, but yeah, it's just you got to be realistic about this. We just saw the Philadelphia Eagles win it all with a very good quarterback, and there's some people can debate this too, I mean. I've heard people say that he's not as good as Sam Darnold. That's a little bit wacky, okay? But I don't think that he's ever going to be – I don't think Jalen Hurts is ever going to be, like a top 5 QB in the league. I think it's a tremendous usage of his skill set. It's a dominant defense, dominant offensive line, run game, and he makes big time throws when he needs to, and that can work. Like there's different ways that you can do this beyond just leaning on a great quarterback to carry you. That's the most, that's the one thing that everybody talks about, things that everybody searches for, but also it's like probably the hardest way to do it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because it comes down to just one person, and so many of these prospects, almost all of them, don't live up to that. We just have a Jacksonville fan on the text line who will tell you that right now. We all thought he was going to be one of those guys. He's not. He's not going to be one of those guys, but he's good. So build a great team.
Well, speaking of like former number 1 overall picks, let's say Cam Ward in his career basically turned out to be what Baker Mayfield is now. Like, wouldn't you take that if you're a Titans fan? Like, he's pretty darn good.
You should.
Right, like, is Baker Mayfield a top 5 quarterback in the league? No. But he's pretty good. And, he has gone down to Tampa. Number 1, did some winning in Cleveland, got that team to the playoffs, which is a hard thing to do. And they moved on because they thought they could do better. And it's been a total disaster ever since then. But, like, he's pretty good. I think if you, like, you can do a whole lot worse than Baker Mayfield. Do you want better than Baker Mayfield? Of course you do. But I think if Cam Ward ends up being a Baker Mayfield type of guy in Tampa Bay where, they're looking at him right now feeling pretty good about the quarterback spot, I think you'd probably take that for an extended period of time if you're a Titans fan.
Yeah, absolutely. But I understand that right now, people don't get excited about that, and that's fine. Look, I suppose you're allowed like a honeymoon, like it's almost like a pre-honeymoon period, right? I mean, it's kind of like, well, we had someone text in about their fiance. It's like you have this vision of marriage in your head, that it's just like that's like a romantic comedy, and then as soon as everything works out and you get together, it's just going to be amazing every day. Now that has been the case for Katie Rexrode.
Yes,
she's one of the rare people in the world who like every day is like, oh my God, he is so amazing and gorgeous and perfect. But I mean, it doesn't usually work out that way. So right
long
now,
fused anger.
He hardly ever gets mad about dumb crap. It's so it's really remarkable, but it's like, I guess as a fan base, you should be allowed now to have a pre-honeymoon where you imagine Cam Ward being the next Patrick Mahomes.
Of course.
I mean, that's fine. But it's almost, it just comes down to like, okay, so what is actually good enough? What could you actually live with? I'm sorry, but like if I'm a Titans fan, if you say Baker Mayfield, okay, I get the Andy Dalton, like, because they were just such a boring team,
Yes.
And he wasn't very dynamic. He was good though, but I would take Baker Mayfield.
By the way, got a texter that says the guy from Nebraska needs to dump that woman. The team comes first. It's from an unnamed texter on the text line.
She may be like the Titans fan base Yoko Ono. Like
Maybe
everyone's gonna blame her.
615.
I will not give out your number, sir. Don't worry.
I know your secret's safe with us. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. More of your thoughts on Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick, and how you view success for that pick as a quarterback. We'll get more into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Come play hooky with 102.5, 106.3 The Game tomorrow and Friday at Boomba's Pizza and Watch Bar from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tomorrow we'll be at the Boomba's in Murfreesboro. Friday we'll be at Boomba's at Spring Hill. Come enjoy award-winning pizza, handcrafted beverages, win prizes, and watch the basketball games with us as well. Speaking of the games, if you need to fill out a bracket for the tournament, head to thegamenashville.com, download our print-off bracket today. You can print that off, presented by Toyota. Fuel your adrenaline at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Also brought to you by thenewcumberland.com, Twin Peaks, and Bet365. Taking your thoughts on the number one overall pick and the Titans. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Joe, we do have one texter that says, and I quote, this entire QB class is booty cheeks if Andy Dalton is the comparison. Good gracious. This is from an unnamed texter on the text line.
Gotta please keep up with this show's vernacular. That would be buns.
It would.
If you're going to try to say booty cheeks, I mean, first of all, cheek, you really need to say booty. You can just say cheeks, but we've gone if you really think it's bad, then it's buns. I don't know why buns are worse than cheeks, but that's just how it goes.
That's how it's gone here.
That's the Robby and Rexrode scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I get it. This is not relative to other classes, a highly rated class, but all that matters is your guy. All that matters is that the guy your team picks works out. And it's just like, Larry Bird played at French Lake High School. People don't expect like great talent to come out of French Lake High School. And for the most part, it doesn't, but he was good. I don't know why I thought of Larry Bird and French Lake, but it just came to mind, like you can at the tiny little, I think of it as class D, like in Michigan, it was A, B, C, D, these tiny little places. Sometimes you can find a great athlete. Doesn't always have to be from like the mega school or the big private school. Same way you can have a buns quarterback class, but you can have one great quarterback. You just hope your Titans pick that guy.
You do. Kevin on the text line saying, how is 41 touchdowns and 4,000 yards not a top 5 quarterback, referring to Baker Mayfield, who did throw for 4,500 yards this year, 41 touchdowns, had 16 picks. Had a great year.
You want to list out the quarterbacks?
We can list quarterbacks. That's how it's not a top 5 quarterback. Is he better than Josh Allen?
No.
Mahomes? Lamar Jackson? Did you take him over Jay Daniels?
No.
Okay. So we can keep going. But, he's not a top 5 quarterback. There's nothing wrong. By the way, that's fine. Yeah, you can make the argument that since he's gone to Tampa Bay, he has gotten himself into that like top 10 territory, which by the way, you can win with that guy at quarterback.
You can win. Yeah. If you're a top half of the league quarterback, you can win, so, there's some teams that win, without that. Again, if we're going to go through the list, you got Stafford too. And again, it's like Jared Goff to me, great example of, conditions enhancing what a quarterback is. But I think a lot of times too, when we talk about these quarterback outcomes, and like Dalton is another, I go back to him. A lot of times what happens is you eventually sour on that quarterback if there's a bad playoff performance, right? Or if there's a consistent inability to get over the hump, which is kind of the Dalton thing. If you're a Bengals fan listening, I don't remember an especially horrific Dalton performance, but just, he just couldn't quite get it done. He couldn't, here, Ryan Tannehill, not the drafted quarterback, but the fan base, the media, and frankly, the Titans view on him changed on one day. All of a sudden the Titans are drafting Malik Willis in the 3rd round and not doing everything to give him help. They're thinking of the next guy. Right. And so a lot of times that's what it is the playoffs will eventually, or maybe just in one terrible day change everything for a QB.
Well, that's where guys make their money, right? Like think about Darnold.
Yeah.
Darnold had an unbelievable year last year, and then when it mattered the most in the last regular season game and in the playoffs, he stunk up the joint. And now look at how that apparently affected his market, his interest. Now he ends up with a nice deal in Seattle, but prior to those last 2 games, you thought the market for him was going to be a lot bigger than it was.
Yeah, like I never would have guessed before. Like if you go into the week with the Vikings Lions game, winner take all game, if you told me at that point that the Vikings wouldn't even think it was worth paying the tag number on him, I would have said you're crazy. And I'd love to, again, I would love to go back and relive history of him playing well in those games and what, not just the Vikings, but the whole league. You know, would it have been maybe not, maybe it wouldn't have been, but I have a feeling it would have been. You know, I would guess it would have been, and that he would have a much better deal right now than he ended up getting with Seattle.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. More of your thoughts to get to on the Cam Ward front. Also, some scuttlebutt on another Titans quarterback that we'll get into. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Wednesday morning. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will be with us later in the program. Got a lot to get into on the Titans front with him. We'll do that later in the show. Preds fans, don't miss Smashville Live tonight at Brewhouse South in Franklin at 6 o'clock. You can see your Preds star players up close and personal. Jonathan Marchessault, the guest tonight. That's tonight at Brewhouse South in Franklin at 6 o'clock. So looking forward to that. Joe, some news, I guess, on the NFL front. Tom Pelissero, among others, putting this out there, that the Minnesota Vikings have rejected multiple trade calls on J.J. McCarthy, telling other teams that they're moving forward with him as the quarterback. The team does plan to add a veteran, but they're not pursuing Aaron Rodgers at this time. So McCarthy, according to this tweet from Pelissero, entering the offseason as quarterback 1 for Minnesota. Now, entering the offseason as quarterback 1, we knew we don't really care about. Will he be the regular season quarterback 1? Remains to be seen. But apparently at this time, according to Tom Pelissero, Joe, Vikings are not pursuing Aaron Rodgers.
So I'm confused that by any team thinking that if they were pursuing Aaron Rodgers, they'd have J.J. McCarthy in the trading block. I don't.
I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt to call.
Yeah, I guess. But like, you think that all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers, the Aaron Rodgers era begins now. I mean, it's a short-term thing until that's how I always looked at it. But that's interesting in terms of, if that's true, they're done with pursuing him. What's his deal then? Is it Steelers or retire?
I mean, I would guess. I mean, Steelers or Giants or retirement. But again, like, what are we waiting on? We're a week and a half into free agency. And look, there was reporting, and we talked about it earlier this week, that Rodgers wanted to play for the Vikings. There was not reporting that the Vikings were heavily interested in Aaron Rodgers. So, like, he can want to play for the Vikings. But if the Vikings don't want him, then, I mean, what's the holdup here? Like, make a decision. Either, like, clearly Pittsburgh is waiting on him to see what he decides to do. The Giants, in the meantime, while they're waiting on his decision, have brought in, Russell Wilson. They met with Jameis apparently yesterday. So, like, they're doing their due diligence at quarterback. But, like, if Minnesota doesn't want him, then Pittsburgh, to me, is the next logical step. I still don't know that I buy the retirement thing, but I guess with him, you never know.
Yeah, at some point it's going to happen, but I feel like it's going to be like some dramatic, like he's going to turn it into like a 2-hour special, like David Copperfield magic special, but it'll be Aaron Rodgers, like retire while on 3 tabs of acid special or something like that.
Maybe so. Maybe so. So for now, J.J. McCarthy, QB1 in Minnesota, which I guess is, when you didn't bring back Darnold, probably the way I thought it was going the whole time. Really, look, one thing that's clear, and we've talked about it with Charles. Like, I don't think it's a secret. Like, they clearly love what they've seen from McCarthy behind the scenes. He's not taking a snap in an NFL game yet, so we'll see what that actually looks like. But like, the idea that, I'm with you, that they would trade him. Like, if you're a team, I guess it doesn't hurt to call, but that was never within the realm of possibility.
So we're back
to the Titans called.
I don't know. Maybe. Well, if you're a Titans fan right now, who would you want? Would you want J.J. McCarthy or would you want Cam Ward?
I mean, it's pretty close, but
I'd probably go McCarthy.
I probably would too. But again, like,
still, they're both unknown.
I mean, Minnesota's, they're talking like, he's some guy that's going to come in and be a top 10 quarterback in the league next year. Guy ain't taking a snap yet, so we'll see. I mean,
had some great preseason.
He looked nice in the preseason. I mean, I've seen plenty of preseason heroes around the NFL, so we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, I mean, I'd probably go McCarthy, but I do think it's close.
Yeah. McCarthy, to me, Michigan had a lot going for it. It was a great example of a championship team that wasn't like the quarterback dragging everybody along and carrying everybody. But actually, I mean, if you watch the way he played in that season, I mean, he made big time throws when needed. And again, he is way better runner than I think people realize.
So Josina Anderson, Joe, put this out there last night, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on it. It's she had some evening notes to sift through last night. It says she was told that 2 quarterback names have come up in recent preliminary trade inquiries or internal discussions, and that's Kirk Cousins and Will Levis. Says Atlanta's been getting calls, and she heard that a 3rd-round pick being potentially actionable on the Kirk Cousins front. The Cousins stuff is not surprising. We talked about that with Charles Robinson last week. Like, clearly Atlanta has a plan of, if you want Kirk Cousins, you're going to have to give us something in order to do it. She also said that the Titans would like to transition and that apparently they're having preliminary discussions on that front on Will Levis. Now, what would the interest level be league-wide in Will Levis? I have no idea. What are you getting back for Will Levis if you trade him? Probably something close to a bag of football. So it's not going to be anything overly substantial, but what do you make of that put out there by Josina Anderson, that 2 quarterbacks she's hearing in trade talks are Cousins and Levis?
Yeah, well, we've talked about Cousins, and I'm very interested in Charles tomorrow on that market. I'm very intrigued by the idea of Cleveland. I feel like, again, if you're the Falcons, you'd love to see Rodgers and the Steelers not work out and have the Browns and Steelers vying for Kirk Cousins. And to me, if you can get something significant, then it's worth the roster bonus you just paid for that. I mean, again, as we've talked about, I see the value in having that insurance too, when you have a guy like Penix who hasn't really proven a ton and who also is injury prone. But also, if you can get something, and I'd love to see that for Kirk to get an opportunity at one of those spots. And Levis, I think this was inevitable, right? Like, the way things look, they've got their QB2 and they're going to draft, we think, Cam Ward. And it's just to me, it becomes a distraction and an unnecessary talking point every day if you're out there at training camp and Levis is in that camp. And people are like, well, what if he's better? And all this stuff. I think it makes total sense. Very interested to know what team, maybe PK will have thoughts on this, what teams might be interested in him. I can see a lot of teams looking at his skill set and saying, hey, bring him in here. All indications are he's a professional. He's going to work hard. He's going to be good in the locker room, and see what can happen with no pressure on him, and just let him keep developing.
Well, look,
that just can't happen here now.
Yeah, like, I've been very consistent on this from the moment the season ended last year. If you're drafting another quarterback, Will Levis does not need to be here next year. It makes no sense for him to be here, particularly now that you've gone out and you've got a backup. Now, I realize Brandon Allen is not an exciting backup quarterback, but he's going to be your backup. Like, there's this thought out there that I guess there could be a competition between Brandon Allen and Will Levis to be the backup quarterback. No, they brought in Brandon Allen to be the backup quarterback. So, like, Will Levis, I really have not understood this idea that a lot of Titans fans are throwing out there that, like, what if he's really good in camp? What do you do? Like, I will be very surprised if he's on the roster by the time training camp comes around here. I just think, going back through the league, looking at these situations, it just doesn't make sense to keep him around. Like, I think when you draft somebody to be your franchise quarterback and it clearly doesn't work, a lot of teams just move on after that. I think it's the best case for everyone involved. Levis, the Titans, everybody to move on. And then the question is, can you get anything at all of substance back for him?
Well, especially when the next quarterback is the number 1 overall pick.
Exactly.
That's a completely different situation than Levis, which was, wow, okay, well, he's still there. Let's go get him at the top of the second. And then you hope it works out. When you draft a quarterback number 1 overall, the entire franchise is now his franchise. It's like, that's what it is. The value of that pick, if you're going to devote that to this player, no other player at that position is anything but someone who's there to support that guy.
Yeah.
Period, point blank, for the next few years. So your last hope at the position, again, is just a distraction.
Wes in Clarksville says, I know Levis has had some very bad moments, but do you see Cam Ward coming in and being better from the start? If Levis and Cam Ward were in the same draft, who would get picked first? We talked about the draft profile earlier this week, Joe, and I said it, and I think if memory serves me correctly, you were with me at the time. I didn't love the Levis pick when they made it. I would have stayed away from it. And then we talked about it the day after, like, well, they've made it, so at this point, you can't help but have an open mind and see what he does. I said earlier this week, and I fully stand by this, I think Cam Ward is a better prospect than Will Levis was coming out. That doesn't mean I think Cam Ward is a superstar, but I think Cam Ward would be drafted ahead of Will Levis. That's just me.
I do too. Now, if you threw Cam Ward into Levis's draft, I think he goes behind Bryce Young. I think he goes behind C.J. Stroud. And maybe he goes, a little deeper in the first round. But I think he goes ahead of Levis too.
Yeah. So what does that mean at the end of the day?
And also Hendon Hooker should have been the number 1 overall pick, along with Joe Milton. But, we can deal with that another time.
What does that mean at the end of the day? Nothing. I mean, we'll see what Cam Ward's able to do coming in here. But I do legitimately believe he's a better prospect than Will Levis was coming out of the draft. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Take your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a lot to get to on the quarterback front. We'll do that coming up next. Paul Kuharski will be with us later in the show. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is from Streetcar Taps and Garden. Patio season is here. Enjoy great food, cold drinks, and fresh air on Streetcar Taps and Garden's covered patio. Get half off a $30 gift card before they're gone at thegamenashville.com/deals. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley alongside Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will be with us later in the program, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines. Got one texter, Joe, that says, I don't understand why people are still holding on to the idea of Levis. He wasn't good his senior year at Kentucky. The draft slide was inevitable. I'd rather have Kyle McCord or Will Howard if they were in the same draft. On top of that, look at his decision-making. Titans fans are in love with mediocrity and will do anything it takes to justify bad picks, and that's what Levis was, a bad pick. Move on. This is from an unnamed texter on the text line who's fed up with Will Levis.
I will say there is a faction of Titans fandom that's like, maybe I think a little too forgiving or a little too sunshiny on Levis at this point. Like Jeff from Nebraska is like, is he buns, cheeks, or dog water? Yeah, I don't know that he's any of those things, but I think we saw enough last year that this is. I mean, we're seeing like with the Titans, their actions tell us they're seeing what we're seeing, right? Which is like, yeah, it's not gonna work out. It's not okay. I don't know that he's cheeks. I said it's almost like lukewarm soup, just it's not quite good enough, and maybe he can get there someday, but it's going to be at another place. But there is a faction of Titans fandom that is kind of still holding on to this, man, give him one more chance. And yeah, I don't buy that. Now I'm not necessarily on board with like Kyle McCord. That's the way he'd be better than him, right? Again, the unknown. I mean, Will Howard and Kyle McCord, I don't expect either of those guys to be starting quarterbacks in the NFL. We'll see, but I don't expect it.
I think, look, there's a faction of Titans fandom, and this is not just a Titans thing. I think it's a general sports fan thing that gets way too attached to, like, mediocre players. Like, Dylan Radins, I think, was meeting with Seattle. I think he was meeting with the Seahawks. And I saw some comments under, like, that tweet, and I forget who had the tweet, but it was put out there that he was meeting with the Seahawks. And some people were like, well, he was a good player for us, man. I hope he does well. I was like, he's a total bust. Like, he ended up being a kind of okay, serviceable right guard when you drafted him to be a second-round starting right tackle. The guy was a bust. Like, sometimes it's okay to say, yeah, that was a terrible pick. It didn't work out. Look, I hope Dylan Radins ends up carving out a nice career for himself as, like, a backup guard somewhere. But, I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, he's like, it's one of those things where he did bounce back and he became decent. And again, he also became decent relative to a terrible offensive line, right? Like he was not the biggest problem on a terrible offensive line. So it's like, great. But yeah, you forget like what he was supposed to be. Yeah, that's not one of those where it's like, oh my gosh, how do we lose him? But it happens sometimes.
LD from McMinnville says, how do you guys feel about the Steve McNair Cam Ward comp? I read that's the comp that Nate Tice from Yahoo Sports gave Ward. Really? I've not seen that. I don't know. Like, I don't know that Cam Ward screams Steve McNair to me. I think McNair was certainly more athletic than Ward was.
Much better. Much better, like with his feet. I mean, McNair, rip off like that run at Tampa, remember? Like that 60-yard run. I mean, like Cam Ward doesn't do stuff like that. So now Cam Ward might, I might have a little more sizzle with some of his throws. I don't know. I don't think they're too similar, but that's interesting. I didn't see that from Nate Tice. I like Nate Tice. He's good.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know that I necessarily see that, but I mean, look, if he ended up being Steve McNair, I think we'd probably all take that, right? I mean, good gracious.
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't want to get into this today, but as we get into the Levis stuff, now we get like Jeff from Aaron, Tennessee saying everybody took up for Tannehill and he was bad and he was a veteran. Again, it's like, if you think that Ryan Tannehill's performance at quarterback for the Titans, take the whole thing, take the playoff game, take the whole thing, is in any way comparable to like what Will Levis did here like last year, like I can't help you. I can't, like it's worlds apart. But whatever. I get upset at people who are going to like remember Tannehill as just some sucky quarterback when it's like, dude, no, that's not what he was. But I shouldn't even have brought this up. But it's your fault, Jeff from Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, Robert and Asheville talking about, Levis. We've seen other quarterbacks be in terrible situations, come back and bounce back. Why wouldn't putting Levis in that same situation see similar results? Zach Wilson may be great in the situation. Darnold found himself last year. We have seen that. We've talked about like the revitalization of some of these quarterbacks, Joe. We also see, Joe, like quarterbacks that fail in their first stop and then fail again in their second stop. Like it's not just like automatic that, okay, well, you drafted this quarterback to be your franchise quarterback and it didn't work. But here in about 4 years, they're going to go somewhere else and play well elsewhere. That does happen. I mean, look, we talked about Mayfield today on the show, right? Like he's playing really well for Tampa Bay. Geno Smith has been much better. Sam Darnold had a great year last year. We'll see what he does in Seattle. There are also quarterbacks, Joe, that people draft that are bad where they're drafted and then are bad elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's still mostly going to be what it is. We talk about the reclamation projects at work because we've had a few, but like it's still way more. Like if you show you're bad, or you're not a starter and you're a back, that's what you're going to be.
And maybe Levis does go. I'm not discounting the idea that Levis could go somewhere else and maybe he eventually turns into like a decent NFL starter. But
yes,
like,
but it's got to be somewhere else.
I would also say though, like if you think that he's going to go somewhere else and turn into like some stud quarterback, there's a lot in his game that I just don't know that you can get out of it. Like I think he's prone to making bad decisions, and he clearly, for whatever reason, and Brian Callahan, we talked about this yesterday, has mentioned this multiple times. I think both directly and indirectly, he clearly has a problem taking what he does, what he learns, what he sees in the classroom, on the practice field, and applying that to game day. And that's a big problem if you're playing quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, look. It might happen for him at some other place. I'd be surprised if he becomes like a great player somewhere else. But sometimes you just have to have the change of scenery. I think both sides do. I think both sides would agree right now. Like it's just better to move to a different situation.
Well, and it's, we're gonna talk more in depth about this with Kuharski as it relates to Cam Ward. Like all of the signs are pointing to Cam Ward right now. It doesn't guarantee that that's the way the Titans are going, but it does kind of make you look at the quarterback situation right now and you say, okay, if it's not Cam Ward, who's it going to be? Right? Like they're not really actively pursuing any of these other veteran quarterbacks. I think their actions.
Well, they had Shedeur in.
They had Shedeur in. And look, I mean, I guess you have to throw him in. But like, their actions tell you that they're moving on from Will Levis. Like the idea that Levis is going to be in contention to be starting games for the Titans next year has just always been ludicrous to me ever since the season ended. I can't envision a scenario where they go back down that road.
Right. No, I mean, like Texture says, Levis made bad decisions, but he's largely getting scapegoated for the O-line and Callahan's offensive failure. Yeah. Look, there's blame to go around, okay? But I guess like if you watched Levis last year and you want to sign up for more of that, again, I don't disagree that he got put in bad spots. He didn't have a good situation around him. But I think there was still enough that just to isolate him to say, yeah. And again, that's what they're doing. Yeah. I mean, the Titans would agree, as we are seeing with their actions. And I think we'll probably see with a trade for not much coming back.
Jeff says, Tannehill lost us the only chance of a Super Bowl in the last 15 to 20 years, and y'all took up for him to the very end.
Right. But how did they get there? Like, why were they there? They lost Derrick Henry, the defense, but also Ryan Tannehill.
Well, think about what we're talking about. We're talking about a lost chance to get to the AFC title game and host that. And now a 3-win football team is the worst team in the league. Don't you think there's a little bit of difference in quarterback play?
Right. Also, 1-2 playoff games. Got to the AFC Championship game. I think scored 24 points as quarterback in the first half of the AFC Championship game. You know, Derrick Henry was the best player, but if you watch those games, you're like, it's just all Derrick Henry and nothing else, then you didn't watch those games.
Yeah, like I don't want to turn into a Tannehill Bobo here because I
said these people force it. They're forcing me to do this.
I said they should have signed Brady, even though Rexrode hates Brady, but that's just me. But Like, I mean, the guy was pretty good. Was he great? No. And you want the great player. But Tannehill largely was pretty good until it fell apart at the end. So I don't think that's too crazy to say.
If Cam Ward could be Ryan Tannehill's performance in 19, again, Ryan Tannehill, 33 touchdowns, 5 picks, all the numbers, look at them in 2020. If you could get that from Cam Ward for a long period of time, you would absolutely crawl on your knees and sign up for it right now.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts to get to on the Cam Ward and Titans front. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up later this hour. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 the game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us here on the program. PK, what's going on?
Good morning, gentlemen. Good to be with you. Good morning, Nashville.
Rexrode live in Lexington, Kentucky, covering the NCAA tournament.
Good for you, Joe.
Unfortunate that he can't see Kuharski in person.
I read at The Athletic he's a
Too
Titans
bad.
beat writer. So I'm very confused about what he does. And he doesn't have, I write to him like this is offensive and inaccurate. It's basically a lie. And he's very ho-hum about it. The Athletic doesn't care about sourcing or inaccurate titles for people.
Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll mention that
No,
for you,
won't.
Paul.
No, you won't.
No, I'll do. I'll send it up the flagpole.
Why is it not an issue? Seriously. Like
Yeah, I
to
mean-
mislabel writers. Why is it? I'm a
Yeah.
subscriber. I'm a concerned subscriber.
Yeah,
Why is it
no,
not an issue?
I appreciate that. I didn't say it's not an issue. I mean, obviously, someone made a mistake doing that. It's happened before, even like before my previous job of this. I've had to be like, yeah, I'm not really a Titans beat writer. We don't have one. I'm a Nashville columnist, and they've changed it. So, it's a busy time for me, Paul. Have a little, have a little grace.
Okay. Titans beat right.
So, PK, you had a bit of a different spin on the Will Levis conversation that we were having the last couple segments.
I mean, on the off chance that the Titans do roll it back with Will Levis, it's not because they think, oh, Will Levis is the magical solution to our thing, or Will Levis has earned more time. It's because they've decided that they're not going to address quarterback this year. Maybe he gets better. But maybe we can refine him somewhat. Maybe he'll be, hopefully he'll be more careful with the ball and more accurate and everything. But it's because they're going a stopgap route. It's not because they think he's their future. I mean, they hope he'd stumble into playing better, but it would be because they're drafting a quarterback in 2026 instead of 2025. Not because as some of these callers or texters are saying, they've decided that, last year was some big aberration and that he's their guy and they have this massive faith in him. And I think Will Levis in a trade would get you a pick swap from 7 to 6, or they might be done with their 7. So, next year, 7 for 6 or something like that. And I don't know how many teams, it's a very preliminary thing. Preliminary thing means, maybe they've asked a couple teams, are you interested? If everybody says no, that doesn't mean much. The only team you could really see valuing him is Jacksonville because of the coaching connection to Kentucky. And I haven't looked to see who Trevor Lawrence's backup is, but
it was Mac Jones. I don't know who it is now.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they have no one, it's conceivable they could want him, but they've got a lot of holes in their roster too to address.
So PK, you've been, I'd say hesitant to embrace what appears to be the case, but it isn't necessarily the case. But like, are you? I think I asked you this. I think I asked you this last week. I'm asking you again this week. Are you now more convinced that it's Cam for the Titans?
I mean, more, but I'm not all the way there by any means. I still think there's a scenario where they stopgap it, where they don't love him and they don't say, well, we're a team that needs a quarterback and we have the number 1 pick and there's a quarterback, so we'll take him. If they don't love him, I don't think that they force him. And
it just
I
seems like
do think there's a scenario where they don't love him.
Here suggests they do. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know that, but it looks that way, right?
Yeah,
just
but I
with
think
their
it's
actions.
I think it's conceivable that they didn't love anybody that was available, and that they don't love him. And
they don't love anybody, is what you're saying.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's conceivable, and I think it's conceivable that it's just a dud year for quarterback for them. I do think. I just forgot where I'm going. I mean, I hate Brandon Allen.
As a quarterback.
Yeah. No, I mean, I said this last week. I think I was ready to write. The fact that they offered Mason Rudolph something to come back is a horrific indicator of their expectations there. I'll just say it again quickly. I think I said it last week. This guy was brought in to be a settling force. He came in to play behind Will Levis. And when Will Levis turned the ball over too much and was pulled, he turned the ball over at the exact same rate that Will Levis turned the ball over. And they said, let's have more of that. That is a pathetic indicator to me of their thinking.
Now, I am totally with you on the chance that the Titans look at the quarterback situation and they say, you know what? We just don't really love Cam Ward. We don't love any of the free agent options out there to be our answer moving forward. I guess what I would have a hard time with if I'm a Titans fan is you're telling me there's nobody out there that was a free agent that you like more than running Will Levis back out there next year? Because that's a tough sell for me.
Well,
unless you're just trying to tank without doing it, without saying it.
Again, I mean, I think there's a little, I hesitate to use the word tank, but a little contentedness with another growth year. And this issue where they would have had trouble attracting, like, pick your favorite one. I don't think they like Darnold, but whoever your other favorite one is, I've had this conversation with Blake Bedingfield. And I 9 out of 10, 99 out of 100 times you could get the guy if you pay him the most money. But this is a bad situation for a quarterback to walk into. Bad team, Callahan, without stability. So you're a veteran quarterback. If you walk in with a new coach, you say, well, I helped set the culture and everything, and I'm with him. But you come in with a second-year coach who's got a bad record, and a lot of people are presuming is in trouble. And what are you walking into really in terms of, you want to go somewhere where you feel like you can win. This isn't that place. And you might be under a new coach in a year who might have no interest in you. And in one of these 2 years, they're going to be drafting a first-round quarterback who is going to take your job inevitably. So, and very particularly not an attractive destination, even if they wanted you. And this Kirk Cousins thing, I mean, I just don't understand it. If Atlanta moves him now, why did they pay him a $10 million bonus?
Well, I guess just could they get like actual quality draft capital from one of these teams?
So you're paying $10 million for the 3rd round pick that the Titans don't have.
Well, what's $10 million, man? The cap goes up $50 million a year. Who cares? There's a bunch of billionaires.
No, I agree, but Atlanta's not known for its cap management, which has stymied them a lot. And why not just bust your ass to get the deal done before the $10 million? I mean, it's not like there aren't a couple teams out there that could really use Kirk Cousins, while Aaron Rodgers, holds the league hostage. Enough with this guy already. Set some deadlines and move on.
It is possible with Cousins. Again, we've talked about it, but maybe they actually aren't doing the trade thing, or they're listening if it's anything that blows them away. But I don't think it's like the worst idea to have insurance for Penix's health and performance, and hoping that Cousins just went downhill health wise last year and that there's still a good player in there. I don't think that's the craziest thing.
None of that's the craziest thing until you tell me it costs $40 million.
It is very expensive. Hey, good for him, though. It's a lot of money to be the backup quarterback.
I mean, I guess you look at it as like, well, our quarterback spot costs $4 million.
You're not paying anything for the other guy, so.
Yeah, good point. 615-737-1025, our phone number. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Paul Kuharski with us the rest of the program. We got a lot to get into on the Titans front. We'll take your questions for PK as well on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
And I'm going to egg your house. Egg your house. It is that time of the day, time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning on the program. Paul Kuharski is with us. Joseph, the floor is yours.
I think that's all. It's always fitting because at some point, PK and I, this will be our post-retirement.
The business.
Yeah, our business.
House egg. It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
A criminal operation that we advertise. It's right off the bat. We didn't really think it out.
We'll never see it coming.
It's criminal-ish, though. You know what I mean? It's kind of like on the borderline. I mean, a lot of
but with those Karens out there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Egg the wrong house. That's all it takes.
But God, it's going to be fun with how fleet of foot we are. The way we'll be dancing around these yards. The way we'll throw out our arms with these eggs.
It's going to be glorious.
Wow, Rexrode's lying on the ground.
We're going to rehab in the afternoons. We'll egg overnight and rehab in the mornings.
Egg and ice. All right, we're going to talk college basketball today, of course. So get excited. But I did look. There's something that's happening. First of all, it's going to happen in this tournament, and we're going to get mad about it. And I think it's going to be the last time. I hope it's going to be the last time. It has to be the last time. This is going to be the last year of all this review crap, which has gotten so out of control. It's absolutely mind-numbing. And if anybody watched the end of Michigan-Wisconsin, the Big Ten championship game on Sunday, everybody's waiting for the bracket. And let's watch the end of this 53-51 game. 3 straight out-of-bounds calls. One of them was like, yeah, we all saw it. It went off the Wisconsin guy. Nope. Go to the review. Got to review. 77 seconds of that game took 15 minutes. It's already a thing in basketball. I mean, people who hate basketball, who I always argue with in my life, are always like, basketball, last 2 minutes takes forever. That was before this crap. That was because of timeouts and fouling. So you already had that. This stuff has gotten out of control. The great example, of course, is Vanderbilt, Texas A&M this year. I think it was 36 minutes for like the final 2:44. It's just out of control. But this is what the officials, this is what they are charged with doing. So they do it. I ripped the SEC, Robby. We've talked about how we cannot allow Greg Sankey to have his allocations in the college football playoff. But let me just say right now, Garth Glissman and the SEC might just save us. SEC, baby. Let's go. Garth wrote the rule in the NBA, which is that he wrote the challenge rule. He used to be in the NBA. He's been with the SEC for less than 2 years now. He's the associate commissioner for basketball. He wrote the rule in the NBA, which was getting, if anybody watches the NBA, 7-8 years ago, it was the same crap. Every single call, both benches are bitching. Review this, review that. Okay, screw it. You go to a review system, that's it. You get, it was initially one review. I like what they've done with it. One review. If you get it right, you get another. Great. That's what college basketball must do. That's what the SEC is trying to make happen. That's their proposal. There's only one thing in the way of it, and it is these freaking coaches. And all due respect to the coaches. I mean, they're the stars. There's the stars of the sport. A lot of great people in that profession and a lot of great coaches out there. But too many of them that I've already heard saying, nah, we got to get calls right. I don't want this. We need calls right. No, you need to. Again, this is like the SEC in football. Think of the product at large. You have to be able to see the forest through the trees. You have to be able to understand that if you're just going to wipe out swaths of the country, you're going to hurt the overall product over time. In this situation, if you don't understand that people are turning away because it's gotten so bad, you're hurting your product. And frankly, college basketball coaches, your product, it's not like college football, which is the second most popular sport in the country. It's down the list a little bit. You don't need to hurt your product anymore. So the coaches need to stand down and shut up on this, because that's the only way this doesn't happen when the rules committee meets in May. and it should go through. There's some other proposals. The NIT is trying to challenge things, but it's like it takes timeouts away, and you still get endless challenges. You need to have a finite number of challenges, and that's it. You save them for that key moment. And if you have one, use it. Great. If you don't, sorry, refs make mistakes. Coaches make mistakes. Players make mistakes. Human beings make mistakes all through these games. We've lived our entire lives with officials making mistakes and no recourse. And replay is good, but it can be too much of a good thing. And in this case, it's gotten way out of control. Let's fix it right now. Coaches, don't screw this up.
Let me tell you a secret, Joe. The NBA may have cleaned it up. The last 5 minutes of an NBA game or two minutes still take 20 minutes. So they may clean this up in college basketball. It will create a void or a vacuum that college basketball will find a way to fill, and the last 2 minutes will still take 17 minutes.
Again, if it's because of timeouts, because of fouling and people at the free throw line, okay. I mean, look, if that's a problem for you, I guess watch another sport. I mean, that's like the normal okay, great. Bye. We don't go away. I don't care. But those are normal things in basketball that I think anybody who loves basketball can live with. And frankly, some of these timeout stoppages you set up, I mean, last night, the play for Alabama State was incredible. Out of a timeout. Sometimes these free throw line, the drama there you miss, and then you come down the other side, hit a shot. Those are all normal basketball things. Reviewing every tiny little incremental thing in a game, that's not normal. That's got to be fixed. If that gets fixed, the product is much better for it. You can go watch spring training.
Well, I agree. And also, I think America's big question is, what the hell are you looking at?
Right.
We see one replay. We see it hit off that guy's leg. Boom. It should be a 2-second review. So the review system doesn't necessarily have to be changed. The reviewers have to be better. Like, what are they over there also discussing the wedding present that's appropriate? Are they having the mound conversation for Bull Durham?
Candlesticks are nice.
Yeah. I mean, it should be 2 seconds. Oh, it hits off his leg. Okay, your ball.
And the other part of this is, and Joe, I'm largely with you, but this goes back to the rant I had on Monday of stop missing so many calls, right? Like if you're a coach, you're freaking out because you're missing, like the college basketball officials are missing way too many calls. Like there's got to be a better way to get them to be more accurate. And I said it, I think basketball is probably the most difficult sport to officiate. So there's going to be some missed calls that way. But another big problem of this is you get to the review, Joe, and then you look at it and you're like, my God, they did miss that. And it's another missed call. Just chalk it up.
Yeah, and look, that's a perma rant, which I don't have time to get into now. But yes, you're right, and that's why you pay them more. You make them full-time employees. You don't have them work 7 games a week during the season and wear themselves out. You develop more good officials. You don't keep having the SEC's got. Pat Adams.
It's brutal.
He's getting really good game. I don't get it. I feel like he misses so many calls. So there's a lot of things you have to do, but mostly you have to invest in this very important part of these games.
We got a lot to get into
Good
with
rant,
PK on the Titans front. That's
rare.
2 consecutive rants that Kuharski has given the stamp of approval to the Rex.
In the water.
We're on a run.
Well, now that he's the Titans beat writer again, he's gotten good.
He's just all over it. We'll have more with
Let me
Kuharski
tell you about
coming
this
up next.
Titans beat and how much it pisses me off.
Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us for the next hour, talking all things Titans. We'll take your questions for PK on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. So, PK, going back to the Cam Ward discussion, it clearly looks from the outside like they're taking Cam Ward at number 1 overall. You've talked about how you're not necessarily convinced that that's the case yet. You did have an interesting piece yesterday at paulkuharski.com with some personnel guys around the league that you've spoken to. What did you kind of glean from that conversation as it relates to the Titans and the number 1 overall pick? And do you feel like the Titans are trying their best, I guess, to keep a lid on this as long as possible as they approach the draft here?
I talked to 3 guys. They all think the Titans will take Ward. And they all like Ward, but they don't love Ward.
Yeah.
The one said, it's awfully hard for a GM in season 1 to not have the guy, even if he's not best player available. And I think that's what most draft analysts and what most fans are thinking. I also think, there are other things in play here. What they've done and haven't done obviously suggests, a hell of a lot of room for him. I think Abdul Carter is, I don't want to say sinking, but the foot injury is a concern. He's not quote unquote clean. I tweeted out yesterday a story that just got no attention in Nashville, that he had an assault incident with a tow truck driver that landed him in a anger management class. I think there may be more than where that came from. That's not like a disqualifying thing, but it makes him quote unquote not clean. Guys are judged clean or not clean in terms of that. Some people will say, I like that kind of anger in my edge rusher. That's fine, but that's cause for further investigation by teams who I think,
And real quickly, before you tweet, I had no clue.
Which is ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a bad job by me, but it's a bad job generally that this market, I don't think, knew anything about this incident being on his record when we're talking about him as, the guy to go get after a trade down, or even potentially taking him number 1. But I think his foot injury is a little bit of a concern. That thing, stress reaction turns into stress fracture, turns into, I don't want to say career killer, but it could be a problem. There are things connected to him that make you a little bit more concerned. You're not concerned with anything with Cam Ward, except whether he's good enough or not. You're not concerned with anything with Travis Hunter, really. And you'd like to be able to make that high pick and not have any concerns. So if they love Cam Ward, you've got to take him. But there's potential that, like Joe constantly says, and smartly, that you're more likely to miss than to hit there or in the first round in general. And if they don't take him, it'll be a while before we know if they made the right decision or not. But if they don't take him, it's because they're getting a trade package and filling in a lot of other holes. And I'm not going to crucify him for that.
Okay, but if that's the case, and let's say the Giants are come around to, we just have to have Cam, and so here you go, whatever that may be. I mean, I've thrown cold water on the idea that the Titans would get, a first from like next year's first, along with like whatever a third this year. But what if they get so worked up and believe that they need Cam Ward, they do that. Titans, whatever. Now, of course, then that Titans will move down to 3 or some other trade down. I guess my question would be, PK, yes, so now you draft your best player available wherever you are. You draft, well, first of all, you have more picks, but don't you pretty urgently need to take another quarterback at some point? I mean, I guess you could wait and give it a shot with like Kyle McCord. But like, do you see a scenario where the Titans might do this, trade down and look at like Shador or Dart or something like that? I mean, like if they go into the draft with this quarterback situation, well, I suppose then we actually do entertain like Levis being on this team next year.
Yeah, I think it'd be more of a run it back situation. I don't think they like this quarterback class. And I think with good reason they don't like this quarterback class. I think McCord could be the one guy. But here's the thing: you keep throwing picks at quarterbacks, right? You did it with Willis, you did it with Levis. I mean, what round would you be drafting McCord? Fourth, maybe.
Yeah.
If you're drafting McCord in the fourth, then you're not drafting the guard in the fourth who could, be Zeitler's successor in a year. So I don't know.
I know this isn't like why you would do this, but like if it came about that they did this, bailed out, got picks, addressed everything, made themselves better, and then it's Will Levis and Brandon Allen as your quarterback room. I mean, again, I know this is not why you make the Titans fandom would be up in arms, which again, I can't blame them.
Well, except for these Levis people that you've got texting
well, that's
in,
true.
which seems like
that's
higher
true.
percentage of the population than any of us would have imagined. No, but it would be a ear. I think we all hesitate to call it a tank. It's not an intentionally lose thing, but it's an accept that we're bad at quarterback year. I have less. I don't know why, but I have less of a problem accepting that as a feasible option for them than most people do, provided they don't like Cam Ward.
Right. Like if you like Cam Ward, and that goes back to the trade package too. Like I think the idea that they could trade back, I'm not going to dismiss. I do think the idea that like, oh, they love Cam Ward, but they're still listening on the Giants. Like to me, if you love Cam Ward, then you're taking Cam Ward, and it's pretty simple. Like I don't understand the idea of, well, they really like Cam Ward, they love Cam Ward, they think he's a franchise quarterback, but the Giants offered an extra first, so they just couldn't refuse.
But again, if you reverse engineer it, if they don't like Cam Ward, they know enough about it ahead of time that they should have signed a veteran who's capable of starting at least. So they should have been in on a Mac Jones or a Jameis Winston or I don't know, Zach Wilson, but somebody better than Brandon Allen. So that screams they like Ward.
Yeah.
How about you? Do you like Ward now more, Paul?
No, I mean, it doesn't change my opinion of Ward on the fact that they need him more. I'm wary of Ward. I think he's got some of Levis's problems in terms of decision making.
Ward wary.
Yeah, I'm Ward wary.
Got Mike from Pennsylvania that says, being a fan rolling into next season with Levis and Allen will save me $400. Will not pay for NFL Sunday ticket to watch that again.
Won't even watch the whole league. Now, that's a statement
I will not
right there.
watch football if that is the case. We'll have more with PK coming next. More of your questions to get to on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game for updates of the NCAA tournament tomorrow and Friday, presented by Toyota. Fuel your adrenaline at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Also brought to you by thenewcumberland.com, Twin Peaks, and Bet365. Paul Kuharski with us on the program, talking all things Titans. PK, over the weekend, the Titans moving on from Chidobe Awuzie. An interesting move. Took me by surprise. We had Corey Curtis on earlier this week. Other people have said that maybe it shouldn't have taken us by surprise. But what did you make of that move? And now in the aftermath of it, how do you view where the cornerback room currently stands for the Titans?
Well, they're 4 deep, so they're still all right. I mean, Gabe Judy Lolly is 5th. He's not, in pen there. They could draft one late, and later round corners pan out often. Undrafteds pan out often. It's surprising in that they're swallowing $12.5 million against the cap. So in that regard, it wouldn't have been hard to keep them around. So I think it's a bit of a message sending thing. Durability's been the theme of the guys that they added, and lack of durability is the theme of the guy that they subtract here. It's a indictment of, Rand Carthon found Jarvis Brownlee, who's the guy that now becomes a starter by choice. He started a lot of games last year out of need because of the injuries to Snead and Awuzie. But gone are Awuzie and Kenneth Murray, who they traded, who were, 2 starters acquired by Carthon, not for small money. So it kind of came out of nowhere. I thought he would be on the team this year. And we only saw him for 8 games.
Well, of course, maybe the biggest durability question on the roster is also at that position, right? What have you heard anything, or what are your expectations when it comes to L'Jarius Sneed? I mean, obviously, to me, this does put more. They're more dependent on him now. I understand Awuzie also wasn't available last year, but you've now cut it down to where next year's team, you've got to have Snead.
Yes. I mean, that's a reason why they you could say they're 4 deep, but they're really 3 deep with a question mark.
Yep. Huge one.
And so they're going to need to add somebody there who's young and durable, and there are some intriguing prospects out there that'll be attainable in the 4th and beyond. Encouraging signs about Snead, who's been a huge disappointment, and I think a disappointment beyond the injury, from what I've heard. But I think he's highly motivated to prove that he was worth the trade and that he's got something left. And so they're counting on that to prompt him to get out there and to play better than he played before he got hurt. So we'll see if he's capable of doing that. We know he's probably not going to be a big participant in camp. And you hope he's just maintaining that knee, and that the quad thing is cured, if you will, by the time he's on the field again.
So, PK, it was a week ago, probably pretty close to this exact moment, that we were talking about Dan Moore on the offensive line and some other potential targets that the Titans could have. And you brought up Kevin Zeitler, and albeit I think either later that day or the next day, they signed Kevin Zeitler and they bring him in. So, number one, what do you make of that move? What do you make now that the picture is more complete of the revamped offensive line here?
I like Zeitler a lot. I think he'll bring good leadership. I mean, nobody's in favor of 35-year-old guys, right? You cross your finger that he doesn't hit a wall or break down. He's been incredibly durable. I think he's a good locker room presence. He's been on a lot of good teams. And I would love to have had a chance to talk to him or meet him and hear about, see what he's like in person and hear about what his plans are in terms of leadership and plugging into this line. But, I think he should be a settling force for this team. And it would be great if they found a right guard now, a young right guard that could kind of be brought up behind him in the style of good football teams who draft a year ahead, oftentimes let a guy sit and build and play special teams and grow. And ideally they will find somebody like that who could potentially replace Zeitler next year. Or, if Zeitler has a really good year, you could conceivably sign him for another year next year if you want, or if you're not ready with an alternative like that.
What do you think is next? Obviously, it's a little, it's like a little quiet period here. There will be, if the free agency comes in waves, like, what do you expect moving forward here next and when in terms of the Titans and free agency?
It could be done until post-draft. I don't know if I think they'd get involved in maybe with one of these wide receivers if these wide receivers come to terms with price and length of contract coming down. But I don't know what the timing of that is, and somebody has to go first out of that bunch, right, and take a substantially lesser deal than they're expecting. So, is Tyler,
that seems incredibly urgent to add receivers.
Is Tyler Lockett going to come to terms with what the market is for real for Tyler Lockett, or Tyler Lockett and his agent still dreaming that somebody's going to pay him somewhere near the scale of what he was making in Seattle? I mean, I'm guessing, but I think also a lot of teams are going to want to see what they get in the draft first. And if the Titans get, say Jack Besh in the second round or after a trade down in the second round, it changes their picture too. So I don't know that, anything can happen between now and then. They said they wanted it, Borgonzi said he'd like to go into the draft, not paraphrasing, not desperate at any spot for anything. Well, they still have substantial holes at edge and wide receiver.
Yep.
There are wide receivers out there like we're talking about who come with question marks. I don't know that there's much out there at edge. And,
would have liked to have seen him get in
Jones,
on Ojulari.
They at least got somebody. Yeah, I agree. Ojulari would be interesting.
Got one texter that says, do you think it's narrow-minded to just assume that we're going quarterback one? Because nothing the Titans have said equals a quarterback one. They want a generational talent. That's not Cam Ward. They said they want multiple 100 picks as well in the top 100. That's also doesn't equal Cam Ward. So do you think putting those comments together that they've talked about earlier this offseason, and I will point out, I think the generational talent stuff got thrown out of context when Schefter picked it up and just tossed it out there after not having been in the room. But what do you make of what they've said their strategy will be as it relates to the draft and how Cam Ward fits into that?
They've given zero hints on Ward. Now, a lot of people say, well, that helps him in a trade situation. I don't know that it helps him that much in a trade situation. If they want Ward, they're going to take Ward. If they're willing to trade the pick, that means they don't like Ward. I think too many people are like, well, they have to make it like they want Ward, so somebody has to come up and trade. I mean, if you want the quarterback at number one, you're taking the quarterback at number one. You're going to pretend like, hey, we really want him, but if you offer us enough, we're gonna trade him. I don't. Yeah. I mean, who's buying that logic?
And it just really what really matters more than that is if the other team wants them that much, right? I mean, that's
what you're saying is, hey, a lot of people are talking to us. You better get up here, because if you don't get up here, somebody else is getting up here, and he's going to disappear. It's not about us. If we want him, you're screwed. So, and I think the other thing is, and I've said this week, we're still a ways off, and it probably comes out the morning of the draft, but the NFL draft is a major TV property for the league. And then, we're well past the day where you could sign the guy in advance. NFL has no interest in the Titans tipping their hand in terms of what they're doing at number one if they stay put in draft. And the Titans of all teams going against the NFL and what they want for their TV show, that's not happening.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More coming up next with PK, who got into it a little bit earlier this week with Titans fans. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com. Some minor Titans news to pass along here. Tom Pelissero putting it out there that the Titans have re-signed Julius Chestnut on a 1-year deal. So,
Boom.
running back Julius Chestnut back in the fold. Obviously, key member of the special teams part of this as well. So, Chestnut back in the fold.
Hopefully not on the roster when it gets cut to 53.
So we will see
What a hater.
what ends up happening on that front. Paul, you
PK,
go ahead.
oh, sorry.
No, go
Hey,
ahead.
I have a question for PK on my personal text line, which I think is an interesting one. Just wanted to pin you down. Quarterback, what you would have done before and what you would do now. So who would you have signed before if you were in charge, and then done in the draft as a corresponding move? And what's your answer now?
What I would have done
before when the market was all there.
Yeah, when the market,
full menu.
When the market was wide open, I mean, I didn't love it. Cousins would have been my first answer. Still is my first answer. If he's available for something within reason. Fourth, I haven't looked at the money directly, so I don't know exactly what they'd be taking on. Atlanta would have to eat a decent amount of that money, so they'd basically just be paying for a 4th round pick. So that was before, and that still is my favorite scenario. And then drafting next year. I remain in favor of drafting next year. And so I would stop gap it. I would still go get Jameis Winston, I think. But I don't love any scenario right now. I think kind of eating the year at quarterback is the way to go. But I'm not going to have a problem if they draft Cam Ward, because it tells me they love Cam Ward. So I don't have any huge affection for somebody. I don't like the quarterbacks beyond Cam Ward. I think it'd be wasteful to draft a later round quarterback. I don't see a lot of later round quarterbacks stepping up and becoming franchise guys.
And not Shador either.
No, I don't like Shador.
There you go.
How about you, Joe? I mean, are you all in on Cam now?
No, if I was taking a quarterback in this draft, it'd be Shador. But the thing is, like, now it's hard. I mean, look, previously, Team Stilling, I like Darnold. I think Darnold as a young guy has some runway still to build on last year. I don't think last year was all just great situation and he was a passenger. I don't think that at all. So that would have been me. And I mean, like right now, if I'm the Titans and I'm picking at one, I'm taking Travis Hunter. I'm taking Travis Hunter.
I mean, he's the
and I feel like
guy.
I feel like I have the one player that I'm convinced will be a great player in this league who's in this draft. But then also I'm sitting there at quarterback, and it's like, I'm with you, like throwing, you need so much. It's like, are you throwing a 4th rounder at McCord or something like that? I mean, I guess you're just going to stink for a year, or you're going to have a Will Levis revelation with an improved offensive line, and everybody's going to be like, wow, Callahan can develop quarterbacks. Levis can play, but I'm just not optimistic that would
you draft McCord
materialize.
And he's not close to ready to play until at least half a season. Then you get a half a season out of him, and then you're going to draft one of these guys next year. And so you draft a McCord to replace Brandon Allen. I don't know.
Yeah, so what I'm probably doing is what you just said. I'm still out there trying to get a veteran right now, as slim as those pickings are. Maybe Aaron Rodgers comes back around to his hometown in Nashville.
Yeah, they're not signing Aaron Rodgers.
So, hey, Brandon Allen just hasn't gotten his shot.
We're asking
yet.
what I would do, not what they're doing. What's that?
Brandon Allen just hadn't gotten his shot yet. He's
There
waiting
you
in the
go.
wings. The most impressive stat about Brandon Allen, he's got a career completion percentage of 56.7.
Wow.
Which is an 18-game
Lovely.
sample size there. In 3 games last year, he got in 56.7 completion percentage. So
consistent.
like that guy is bringing to the table. a 56.7% completion percentage. That's what it's going to be.
And
That's
accuracy.
consistent QB3 performance.
I mean, you can't get, accuracy is an issue with Levis, and you bring in a guy with a lesser completion percent. That's what you want. You're scaling up. And by up, I mean down.
So, PK, you got into it with some Titans fans earlier this week. You put it out there that the Titans are not holding press conferences for their new free agent signings, which I don't believe has ever happened before, if memory serves me correctly.
Never happened.
So they're not doing that. You put that out there, and of course, there was some fan reaction of, who cares? I don't want them saying anything. Just let me know when they play football, those things.
I don't need to hear from them. I just need to see them play. Well, they're not playing. It's March 20-something.
March the 19th. Yep.
March 19th. Yeah. So it's not getting in the way of them playing on September whatever. I mean, I've never heard anything interesting out of these. Fine. Don't read it. It's just clickbait for you guys. Well, guess what? When we write stuff, people click on it. I'm not clicking on it. I've written it. I mean, what does it hurt from a marketing side? This team has zero interest. That's how uninterested people are. They don't want to hear from the guy. They have zero interest. They're trying to sell tickets, build enthusiasm for a new stadium. They're signing these guys. You would think they're proud. I feel like they're embarrassed of these guys. Yeah, we signed Dan Williams, but we're kind of embarrassed about it. We're not going to put him out there. We don't want you guys to hear about him. Also, it forestalls everything. So when's the first time we talked to Dan? We talked to him
OTAs?
At OTAs. And so at OTAs, we're asking him, hey, we got some questions about your work in Pittsburgh. I mean, shouldn't that be behind him by then? And we say, how was the first day of OTAs? That would be the question at the first day of OTAs, generally. Now, the first question to OTAs in April is about how he did in Pittsburgh. You gave up 12 sacks in Pittsburgh. Your stats didn't look very good in Pittsburgh. Did you? How do you get $20 million out of that? Sure seems like I mean, why would you not want to get that over with? It's just.
And then he'd answer you. Thank you for the question. Also, my name is Dan Moore, not Dan Williams.
Dan Moore. Sorry. Well, this would solve it. We'd get to learn his name if they introduce
practicing it. Yeah,
That's
practicing.
right.
So we're gonna sign these.
Denard Walker is about to be back and right down the corner.
Xavier Woods. We'd like to. I mean, it just makes no sense from a marketing perspective.
So why make this
it
decision?
adds to me. I know people out there think it doesn't matter. Dysfunctional team. I mean, it's just common practice. Yes, there's another team or two that doesn't do it. That's what they'll use for their defense. Well, the Vikings aren't doing it. The Titans love that. Well, we've looked around the league and the Vikings aren't doing it, so we're not going to do it. I don't know why they're not doing it, but it's really, really dumb. And I don't care if out there a couple of you are saying, well, I've lost interest so much, I don't care. That's the point. You've lost interest so much, you don't care. So they should do everything they can to try to get you to care again. And if there's an interesting nugget that comes from one of these guys, or look, we get a couple quotes from them and then we go talk to their coach in high school and we write a feature and people do click on it because they read stuff about their team and they just sacrifice that. They could have owned this whole week. Two days with 3 guys available each day or 2 guys available each day. And a bunch of stuff is written about them as opposed to nothing. And here's the other thing it does. One more point. When they don't make those guys available and steer the stories, what they do is ask for opinion stories. And what are opinion stories about the Titans right now? They're all about how the team is stupid and dysfunctional. So they say, instead of you guys writing about our new guys and us turning a corner and bringing in new people and new personalities, go write about how we're dysfunctional.
Yeah, I think that, like the fans on social media, this is one of those things where it's like you have I don't know how many people were coming at you, but I would easily wager that the majority of the fan base would like to read anything about the team. I mean, yes, of course, some of the fan base is turned off and tuned out and all that stuff, but people want to hear information like this. Dennis on the text line is like, what about Dion Lewis crying at his press conference? I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
Said it got him pumped up for some Dion Lewis. But yeah, like this is a void where if you have things like that to fill, it's a no-brainer to me, especially if you're trying to, and you're in the situation the Titans are in, and you're trying to, you're trying to get any sort of positive momentum or interest going.
Some of you out there, please listen to this in the good faith it's intended, honestly. They've got you hypnotized into accepting things from a terrible, dysfunctional organization. They do this and you go, oh, it's fine. It's fine. They've got you, Robby mentioned earlier, thinking that Dylan Radins is somebody worth keeping. A second-round bust who couldn't play at right tackle and was serviceable as right guard on a terrible line. And you think, oh, man, we're going to lose Dylan Radins? This organization has masterfully, as a terrible team, convinced you of things that you just accept. Stop accepting this crap. I know you can't like storm the building and asking for better, but there are ways to ask for better. Step back for a second and think, if you're accepting of them not introducing their new guys, if you think Dylan Radins is some big loss, you got to reality check what's going on around the league with good teams, man.
Yeah, that's very well said. Hey, when Deion Lewis was crying at the press conference, do you think that we were all blocked on Twitter before or after that?
I think after. I mean, that was super early.
It was.
Now, maybe it's a matter of days. I don't know, but
He blocked me, and I was not on the radio nor had spoken to Deion Lewis in my entire life.
Maybe it's because we didn't join him in weeping that he decided to block everybody. I never thought about that.
That's it. I've had it.
I mean, that was a season of crying because that was the first J-Rob's first year, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was within weeks of J-Rob crying.
I think it was.
Yeah, that was his first free agent class. He immediately brought in Malcolm Butler and Deion Lewis, no?
I think so.
Deion Lewis was not on the team in 2017. No.
16. He was on
Deion Lewis. Wait. Am I mixing people? No. Dude, you guys. Before I go. No, he was not. Deion Lewis, 2016, they had DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. Deion Lewis beat them in a playoff game in 17. He was on the team in 18, his first year.
Yeah, we're wrong.
Holy crap.
All
Robby,
right.
you don't have old brain like Paul and I do. You need to set us straight on these things.
He blocked me. I can't see anything.
Minnesota's moving past discussions with Aaron Rodgers. ESPN
I saw that.
says.
I saw that.
Thank God. I mean, how this guy
Make
has
him a
this
Titan.
power.
Make him a Titan.
To stop saying that because it's not happening.
Deion Lewis had 517 yards in 2018. That's about 300 more than I thought.
He was RB1 for a while. He was great at Dallas.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry barely playing.
Joseph, that does it for you today on the program. Go do your interviews. We got one more segment with PK coming up. Have a good one.
Titans beat writer.
Bye-bye.
Joe Rexrode off to cover basketball.
We got one more segment with PK coming up next. Oversight on our part by Deion Lewis there. How could we forget that?
There's a lot of crying. It would have been a nice story if they cried back to back.
It would have been 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 the game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Paul Kuharski with us here on the program. PK, Mike Garafolo putting it out there that Rondale Moore visiting with the Titans today. He's been on kind of a tour. He's visited with the Bears, the Jets, and the Vikings already to this point. And apparently the Titans the next stop on that list. He didn't play last year because of a knee injury. He's dealt with injuries at different points throughout his career. 2021, he had 435 yards on 54 catches. It's gone downhill since then. 41 for 414 in 2022 and just 40 for 352 in 2023. What do you make of the idea of Rondale Moore on a visit here?
I think it's the visit part, I would guess, is largely medical, right? That he's going to all these teams after the knee injury in camp. But look, they need to add to this group of wide receivers, which right now is Calvin Ridley. Bryce Oliver could conceivably be the second guy there. I think they think he's the next NWI with better speed. And Van Jefferson, who, really has done nothing lately, but they see as a good play action option. Throw Rondale Moore in there. That's fine with the draft pick. I prefer Elijah Moore. I really prefer Tyler Lockett, though. You said, 32?
32.
But a couple old guys splashed in for, out of necessity for a little while. I'm looking up Lockett here. I haven't seen. I think he's been pretty healthy. We'll see. You go look at that wide receiver list. It's not quite as good as I thought. Diggs, he's got some attitude issues. Keenan Allen, it's 33. Amari Cooper, you were saying, kind of disappeared last year. Deontay Johnson, nobody wants anything to do with him.
No.
Lockett. Then you're at Braden Cooks. Robert Woods, been there, done that. Then you're at Josh Reynolds and Devin Duvernay. You're not touching those guys. Nelson Aguilar, DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, been there, done that.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as great as you thought. Cooper Kupp, that was a get. And the big get, Devontae Adams is going to produce for the Rams, but he cost. And Deebo Samuel cost something.
I think Lockett's the way I'd go. I think Lockett would be the guy. I know he's 32, and he's not going to be the guy he was in 2019, 2021, where he's, catching 1,000 yards or catching 80 balls, 1,000 yards a year. He's not going to be that, but you don't need him to be that. Like right now, they need some bodies in that room.
Yeah, but he's played, he's not missed games.
No.
He's not missed games at all. Last year, 49 catches, 600 yards, 2 touchdowns.
12-2 a catch.
Yeah, 12-2 a catch. Yeah, he's not, he's averaged 13 a catch. Take that.
Yep.
He's averaged 53 yards a game. Last year, he's down to 35. You can make him work.
Yep, I agree. PK, thank you for being with us.
Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks. Look for a James Foster 7-round mock draft at paulkuharski.com coming up.
Nice. Looking forward to that at paulkuharski.com. Chasing Big Joe is up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.